Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the finale of ELAB30, where we get into the nitty-gritty of everything. We will be interviewing a character from 8 novels and finding out what made them who they are. Let's begin with someone who is unforgettable in the world of Shakespeare, Hamlet. So, Hamlet, let's just get right into the dramatics. Were you trying to avenge your father, or were you simply just murder happy?
You know, Mila, I love my father and would do anything to have him back. Not in ghost form. But the murdering portion just came with me wanting justice for what is right.
Hold your horses there, Hamlet. The avenging is long done. Next question. Did you really love Ophelia, or was it all just to get revenge?
Ophelia meant everything to me, yet I pushed her away. I was just going through a brief period of grief, and she caught me in a bad mood that time in the garden.
No doubt you loved her then. Timing is everything. It is now time to introduce Hamlet to someone who wrote a whole essay on figuring out who you are, Jessica Davidson. So, Jessica, what isn't a name?
A name is not anything, and it does not matter what we are called. It is our identity that means everything.
That's amazing. Now, after the break, we will dive a little deeper into how Jessica and Hamlet are similar when we are talking about themes and lessons. Welcome back. It is time to talk about the themes and lessons surrounding both the play and the essay. Hamlet, what would you say the main theme was?
For me, it was identity and trying to find out who I was after my father died, and I went insane.
I would have to agree. From an outside perspective, you lost who you truly were trying to avenge your father. You didn't know how to love, and you even gained a hatred for your mother. Jessica, what was the main lesson you wanted the readers to gain from your essay?
I would surprisingly have to agree with Hamlet. My main theme was also identity and not knowing who you really are. Everyone hides behind a mask and surface-level questions, but deep down, who really are you?
So you two really are similar. Crazy how that happens. I know some lessons I learned from both Hamlet and Who You Are is to not let people define you. You decide who you are, and you are to become what you want to become.
And to not let the people you love go, because you never know what can happen.
So true. I would also like to think that both these texts connect to the search for self theme.
How so?
Well, both Hamlet and Jessica realize that to be ourselves means that we have to dig a little deeper than what our favorite color is or what our favorite sword is. Although we never fully grasp who they are, no one truly knows who we are. We still learn more about ourselves each and every day. Still here? Good. The stories just keep unraveling. Next, I will introduce a man who still lives in the past. Gatsby. So, Gatsby, you threw all these big and extravagant parties, but you never showed your face. Why? You were the talk of the town.
It was never about the fame or people knowing who I was, Mila. I just wanted the love of my life, Daisy, back, but she never showed up to see what I had made myself of.
That is the sweetest thing I have heard all night. Speaking of Daisy, do you ever think you were actually in love with her, or were you in love with the idea of her?
The more I think about it, the more I love the idea of her. In a picture-perfect world, she was everything I ever could have wanted, and more. But her and I both changed, and we were searching for something that was no longer there.
That reminds me of a poem I read called A Noiseless Patient Spider. Let's bring in Walt Whitman and talk about his poem and why he wrote it the way he did. Come in here, Walt. So, Walt, is the search for identity something that we ever finish, or does it continue on forever?
Throughout our lives, we will always continue to figure out who we are. Major and minor events will occur in our lives that will shift our perspective on a certain topic, and that could affect how we view ourselves. We never truly know who we are 100%.
Well spoken. Now, when we come back, we will do yet another deep dive into the themes and lessons of both texts. Let's jump back into it with a question for Gatsby. What do you think the main theme of your text was?
I don't think there was just one. I would have to say it was between the American dream and searching for that dream.
I would have to agree. And a major lesson I learned from you specifically, Gatsby, was that you can't relive the past. No matter how much you may want to, it either happened to teach you something about yourself or how life may work.
That is very well put, Mila. I wish I saw it earlier on.
Now, Walt, what do you think the biggest theme of your poem is?
Probably similar to Gatsby, it is searching for that purpose or belonging wherever you go.
I felt that when reading it. I also felt that a major lesson I learned from your poem was that it is okay to not be able to settle quickly, and not knowing what you want is okay. It takes time to know what you want.
That is exactly what I wanted people to get out of that.
Now, when talking about the two major themes, I feel like Gatsby is more of a social experience, while Walt's poem is more about the search for self. What do you guys think?
I think mine was about giving the community a darn good time while trying to win Daisy back.
True, but on the contrary, the spider was trying to figure out what he wants in life and who he wants to be.
But I set up all these big events and did all these things for other people, not thinking about myself.
Okay, guys, it's not supposed to be a competition. Welcome back. Time to introduce you to the man who wrote the book, The Family Next Door, about the Turpin family, John Glad. So, John, tell me, what made you pick the Turpin family to write the book on?
I wanted to give a voice to the children, expose the hidden abuse they endured, and to highlight the failure of the adoption and school system when talking about family abuse.
It was an amazing book to read, and it opened my eyes to so many things I wasn't aware of. I would now like to introduce John to someone who went through many internal conflicts, the Happy Man. Happy Man, I've been wanting to have you on my show for a while. What made you want to seek help for being so happy? Isn't that a good thing?
I was just disturbed on how happy I really was. I couldn't externally feel anything else. Even now, after seeking help, I still feel like I have to put on a mask.
That must be so hard. Now after the break, we will do yet another deep dive into the themes and lessons of both texts. So John, what was one of the main themes you wanted the readers to learn from your novel?
Heal your generational trauma or self-trauma so that you don't end up hurting people you love and care about. That will just create more generational trauma.
That's true. I think the main themes I got from The Family Next Door are trauma and isolation for sure. Happy Man, what would you say the main lessons you learned were?
Don't suffer in silence. That just makes everything worse. Go to professionals like a therapist or a doctor to get help that you need so you can be the best version of yourself.
And it doesn't even have to be you confiding in a professional. It could be a family member or a close friend. I also think the search for self theme connects most here with both of them. As the man got the help he needed, the children did as well after they were rescued. They needed to find who they were and how to fix themselves for the future. They needed to emotionally grow and find out how to fix what was broken and lost. Next will be the last two people on the show and the finale. Last but not least, let me bring in someone who takes betrayal very seriously, Montresor. Montresor, why would you call Fortunato a friend if he really betrayed you the way you said he did? And why torture him and not just stop being friends with him?
No! Friends don't do that to each other. Complete betrayal of trust? And why not? I enjoy having control and power over people.
Well, that certainly is an answer. Montresor, I think I have someone for you who went through something very similar. Not torture, though. The man who shot the elephant, George Orwell. So, George, why did you shoot the elephant? You had the option not to.
I didn't want to look like an outcast more than I already did. The peer pressure was strong.
That's understandable. Let's jump right into the final section of the interview, lessons and themes from both texts. George, what was a lesson you learned from that experience?
Don't let peer pressure get to you, especially if it goes against your morals and values.
That is an amazing lesson. And a theme I got from you is pride and power. Pride from you, George, when wanting to keep your status, and power is what your peers had over you. Now, Montresor, what is a lesson you learned after you tortured your friend?
Revenge isn't always the best option. In this situation, it's better just to walk away and not act upon any type of revenge.
That's probably the best in your case, and future cases. A theme I got from your text was power and revenge, definitely. I think both are social experience. Not only did George do it in fear of pleasing the rest of the group, but I would argue that it shows the negative side of the social aspect. It shows peer pressure and wanting to fit in, and that it is not always a good thing. The cask is also a small bit of the social experience, but I would argue that it is neither, but I have to pick one. I think that George is also similar, and it shows that it is fake friends. Montresor was fake, and hiding the fact that he was about to kill his friend, Fortunato. For a quick explanation, the social experience is how people interact with society, how they are treated, how they perform, and how they are shaped by the people around them. The search for self is more of a personal journey into figuring out your identity, your role, and who you really are. Thank you for watching.